Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tinkerverse. So LightBurn dropped release candidate 2 for version 2.0 to the public today, and I want to kind of go through and do a side-by-side comparison. This is unscripted, and we're going to be kind of taking a look at this together, so stick around. So, version 2.0 is the first major release in a while here, and there's a lot of that was changed under the hood, a lot of defect fixes and stuff. But what I want to focus on today is several of the UI fixes, so that you guys can kind of be prepared for what's coming, because some things aren't where they used to be, and I think it's for the better. So let's dive in. And what I've got here is I've got up release candidate 2. And I've got up the public release 1.7.06. So this is the current live version on the right, and then this is the release candidate on the left. And as a caveat, release candidates are still considered beta, so what I show you today is subject to change. I don't expect things to change much unless something major is uncovered, but just be aware that, this is still beta. And if you choose to go play around with a release candidate and understand that you are downloading a beta product, and that use it with caution if you're using this in a production environment that is making you money. So with that out of the way, let's kind of dive in. So the first couple things we're going to look at is, they were starting to build up space on the toolbars. For people with lower resolution screens, they were running out of space to add new tools over here. So one of the things they started to do is they started to stack the toolbars. So what you're going to notice is you're going to notice that your traditional shapes window, or your shape tools, your primitive shapes, your rectangle, circle, polygons, are all individual icons in the current release version. As of version 2.0, they're going to be stacked. So quite a few, graphics packages use this method where if you do a long press, so if I click on this and do a long press, I get the menu where I can come and select the shape that I want. And you'll notice there's quite a few new shapes compared to the old version. So over here, we had, rectangle, circle, or ellipse, and polygon. And sure, you could come into polygon and change your shapes to 3 and get a triangle. But in the new world, you actually have some primitive shapes that are ready to go right out of the box. So if I want a triangle, I select triangle. If I want a pentagon, polygon, obviously I can change just like I could before with my shape properties and my number of sides. So if I want a 10-sided or if I want a 3-sided, those options are still there. But out of the box, I can now do pentagon, octagon, star, and dual star. So star will give me a star. Obviously, that option is not available in 1.7. Dual star is kind of neat in that it will give me kind of this starburst effect. And just like all your other shapes, if I hold shift, it'll lock that aspect ratio. And so with the dual star, it's kind of cool because what you see is you've actually got 2 stars stacked on top of each other, slightly rotated. So if I were to take a single star and do something like this, change my ratios a little bit, and then rotate this and overlay it here. So that's kind of what you're getting, is you're getting this type of shape, but it's doing it all at once. So if I were to Boolean this, so instead of having to do that, I can now just do a simple double star. So again, I come up here, long press, dual star, and there's quite a few things I can do in my shape properties. So in shape properties, and if you don't have shape properties, come up here to an open area, right click, and turn on shape properties. But you'll see I can change ratio 1, ratio 2. So ratio 1 is going to change like that. Ratio 2 is going to change the kind of the length of the secondary spikes there. Bulge, if I want to remove the hard corners and have more of a rounded shape. So now I'm kind of getting into a flower shape, which is kind of neat. So there you can kind of build flowers now. If you want to alter your points, you can alter your points, and then changing your height and your width, just like if I were to grab my grab handles. So that's the double star, so you can have a lot of fun with that shape. But again, these are all new shapes, and if you long press on the shape icon, you'll see those pop up. And whatever the last thing I selected is, it will remain that. So if I go do something else, if I trim some stuff back here, get rid of some stuff, when I come back, it's going to remember the last shape that I was on. So that is the new Shapes tool. So if we take a look at this, you can now select triangle, pentagon, octagon, stars, dual stars from a stacked menu, and that's the stacked menu I was just showing you. Click the arrow in the corner of the shape. So let's see, if I click the arrow, okay, so I don't necessarily have to long press. I can long press and it brings up my shapes, or I can click on right on the corner where that little arrow is, and it'll do the same thing. So, or actually, if you click just outside of the shape itself, no, maybe not. Okay, so clicking to the right of the shape or clicking the little arrow down there will bring it up, or it's easier if you just do a long press, as far as I'm concerned. So that is the new built-in shapes. Next up is the edit nodes. So let me kind of put some more shapes back on the screen, and we'll play with edit nodes a little bit. Let me get rid of all this, and let's do a star. And actually, no, you know what? Let's do it as something I can do in the old version. So let's just do a polygon, and we'll drop a 6-sided there, and then we'll take in version 7 or 1.7 and drop a polygon there. So in version 1.7, let's convert this to a path. Edit, convert to path, and then I go into node editing. To change my nodes, if I hover over the node edit icon here, you'll see I get the pop-up of all of the different node modifiers, and then I would have to use hotkeys. So if I want to smooth a corner, I would hover over a node and press S. If I want to delete a node, I would hover over the node and press D. So if I come over here, press S, you'll see it goes smooth. If I hover over another node, press D, it deletes it. So in 2.0, it actually made that a little bit more user-friendly. So if I go into node editing, you'll see that now I have a secondary toolbar here. And instead of having to remember what my hotkeys are, I can actually come in here and click on one of these operators and then go click on my node. So if I want to smooth out a corner, I can come over here, click on smooth existing node, and then go click on the node, and it smooths it. If I want to delete a node, I click on the little minus node here and go hover over my node and delete my node. And so it shortcuts the need for me to remember all the different hotkeys and gives me a nice little toolbar that I can use to perform all the same operations that are always there. They're just slightly easier to find for somebody who's more visually inclined and less apt to remember all the different hotkeys. So there you go. So there's your node tools, and let's take a look at their release notes. Activating Edit Nodes tool now expands a submenu with buttons for each node editing option. Click a button to activate the option, then click the node or path to perform the operation. And just another call out, the keyboard shortcuts still work as they always did. So in theory, I can come over here, hover over this, hit S. So if you're used to your hotkeys are still there. But you can also choose to use them through here. Alright, so that's the node editing changes. The experimental camera, I'll do some playing with that in an upcoming video. It's a little bit outside the scope for this, but it's kind of cool looking just watching what their little video shows here. You kind of got real-time tracking of the patterns and everything, so looking forward to playing with that. From a theme perspective, the changes that they've implemented behind the scenes now allow for your system themes to take effect. So now you have things like your system theme, your classic dark, classic light, and those will change all of the Chrome, all of the toolbars and everything surrounding your workspace. So if we take a look at that, obviously those aren't here in 1.7. So if I go to settings, or not device settings, and go to display, the only option I have is to use a dark background. And you'll see in a minute what I don't have is the option to change all of the surrounding. So I can do dark background, and that's fine. That's been there for quite some time. Let me turn that back off just because I don't personally prefer it. Where to go? Display, dark background. But now, in addition to dark background, which is still there, you now have the drop down here for system theme, classic dark, classic light. So right now I'm in classic light, and it kind of looks the same as it always has, the gray, light gray toolbars. If I go to classic dark, you'll notice it doesn't take effect right away. I actually have to restart it. So let me see if I open a new... Yeah, see if I open a new window, you'll get the dark LightBurn logo. And now you've got all of the dark borders, dark toolbars. And then if I really wanted to pair this with a dark background, just to show you what that looks like, I can go completely black out there. So a lot of people prefer this. It does make it a little harder to see some of the, if you're using dark background, it makes it a little harder to see some of your layer colors. But obviously you can just choose to go with lighter layers. But, it kind of gives me this high contrast, high visibility look to it. I'm actually going to just, I'm going to go back to classic light just because that's my preference. I actually use dark mode for most other things, but for some reason dark mode when I'm in a design app like this, it's a little bit too high contrasty for me. But the option is there. So let's go ahead and bring back up the light version and change my display background. Okay, so now we're back to normal. So that is dark mode. Again, you got your application theme, you got your your system theme, your classic dark, your classic light. So that's that. So next up, we've got the stacked Boolean operators and the button which is going to kick off the Boolean assistant. So let's grab a couple of shapes out here just for grins. Alright, and I'll do the same over here, so let's do that, and let's do that, and then do that. So very similar shapes here. Alright, so now in the classic, or in the current production release, you've got your Boolean operators all as separate buttons over here. So you've got your weld, which stays the same in both versions, but you've got your union, your subtract A from B, and your subtract, intersect of A and B. So if I choose these, I can choose any one of those, and it sets it for me. In the new version, I've got stacked operators. So if I long press, you'll see I've got the fly out. So I've got union, subtract, intersection, and then Boolean assistant, which we've always had over here by clicking Control B. So if I come over here, click Control B, I get my Boolean operators. But but now I can either bring it up by long pressing and going here, or just click it. If I just click it, it pops up my Boolean assistant, and then I can cycle through my changes and pick the one that I want, and I can also reset it from here. So if I do the same operations from here, they still work, but it commits it right away, so I have to know exactly what I want. So I kind of like, I use Boolean operator more often than not, just because it's, sometimes I'm not quite sure what it is I'm looking for. So being able to come over here and long press and do Boolean assistant. Oh, okay. My fault. So I just noticed something. It behaves just like the shapes. So it remembers whatever the last thing I pressed was. So if the last thing I did was Boolean assistant, that's what single click is. But let's say I do union. If the last thing I did was union, A single press is going to union. So it's sticky just like the shapes are. Whatever the last thing I used is what the single press is going to do. So single press just remembers whatever the last use was. Okay, that's fine. Control B still brings up my Boolean assistant all the time. So that's always available through Control B. Cool. So let's see what they have to say about that now that I've fumbled my way through. Boolean operators are now stacked. The Boolean assistant is now the default option, and clicking once will open it. Remember, clicking once if that was the last thing I tested. So yeah, that's a little bit, the phrasing there is a little bit funny. It is the default if you've never used it before, but once you've used something else, then that becomes the default. Click the arrow on the bottom left or anywhere in the icon and long hold to open a submenu. Selecting an option will perform that operation and make it the default button's active operation. Okay, so they do correct that down here. Selecting an option will perform that operation and also make it the button's active operation. So subsequent clicks will perform that again. So it's only the default when you first start. So, okay, cool. That is called out there. Cuts layers window, new icons and context menus. So let's look at the release notes first, and then we'll go take a look at it on the screen. You can now right-click any layer to open a context menu with options to disable, hide, flash, or select objects. Okay, so those were previous hotkeys. So you'd press Shift or press Control as you click on the layer, and it would do different operations. It would select all in the layer. It would flash all in the layer. So if I come over here and I can, if I hit Shift and click the layer, you see it selects everything. If I, what are some of the other operators? I can't seem to make it do. I thought there was an option to have it flash. There it is. So if I hold Control and, oh, if I just right click, all I have to do is right click. If I right click, it flashes the layers. If I hold Shift and left click, it selects everything on the layer. So they've simplified that again. So they've made it context enabled. So if I come over here, I'm going to right click on the layer, and yeah, so there's flash. And okay, so I can no longer right click to flash. So right click flash over here, but right click context menu over here and choose flash. Select all shapes in the current layer. Let me see if I hold Shift and left click. Okay, Shift left click still works. Hide this layer. Hide all but this layer. Hide all but this layer. That's kind of a nice one. But hide this layer turns off the show toggle. So just like clicking the show toggle, it hides that. But if I've got other layers, so let's move these around a little bit. Okay, so if I say hide all layers but this one, okay, it turns off the show on every layer but that one. So, yeah, okay. And then I would imagine that disable this layer turns off the output. Disable all layers but this one turns off output on all the others. So okay, so it's pretty straightforward. It just gives you a way to manipulate all of the different layers as if I were coming in here and doing toggles. So if you've got something with a lot of layers in it, I could see that definitely being useful, along with just reminders that you can flash it and select from there, which again were always operators over here, but they were handled through a shift click or a right click. Cool. All right. Other notable changes: camera control window updated with new tabs separating tools to capture and adjust overlays. So let's see, I don't have my camera layers open. Let me open my camera. Oh, camera controls is up here. Okay, and then let me open it over here. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, all right, so capture and adjust are on two different tabs here. Before, fade show, we're both there. Update overlay button there, update overlay button there. Users, let's see. Windows users will see additional tabs to control exposure, brightness, contrast. So I didn't see that. Additional tabs. I don't see those. So there's still some things that look like they're missing. So again, release candidate beta does not necessarily match up with the documentation. Okay, so some changes to the camera window. Let's see. Enable switch to select mode after drawing a shape in the editor settings tab. Let's see. Settings to immediately exit the draw shape tool after creating a shape and enable selection. Ooh, I like that. Okay. So let's find that one. So in the settings, nope, not device settings, settings. All right, let's see, I haven't seen this yet, so. Okay, switch to select mode after drawing a shape. So it's down here. So let's see if this does what I think it does. Oh, yes, that I like. If I turn that back off, you'll see the default is if I draw a shape and then it draws another shape. Okay, hang on, I want to make sure I get this right. So if I draw a shape, it selects it and I can make changes, but it leaves me in the shape mode. It leaves my cursor in the shape mode. So if I don't manipulate this, I can go keep drawing boxes. But if I turn that on, when I do that, so it switches to select mode. So after I draw a shape, I'm now in select mode. So I actually, personally, I like that. A lot of times I find myself, well, here, I'll go do it over here. I find myself, I'll draw a shape, and then I want to go, you know, do something else, and I think I'm deselected, or I want to select it or something, and instead I'm drawing shapes. And I have to either hit escape a couple times or come up and hit the arrow cursor up here to get back into select mode. So yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like that option, so I don't always have to come in here and do that. And see, this is what happens, is see, I get these little artifacts because I don't realize I'm still in shape drawing mode. So over here, I can do that, and no matter what I do after that, it's in select mode. Cool. I like that. Thank you, guys. Copy along path now has a select results toggle. I thought that you could always... Alright, hang on. So let's... So let's see. Arrange. Yeah, it's under arrange. Copy along path. Okay, so what are they saying? They're saying select results. So if I don't have that checked and I hit OK, okay, it doesn't default select my results. But arrange, copy along path. If I do, oh, I want to copy that along that path. Arrange. But if I do have that, it defaults to the selection. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Alright. So that's an easy one. Copy along path has an option. So again, you saw it there. It was arrange, copy along path, and it's the select results toggle. If you want, by default, when you hit OK, to select the results. Okay. So that's pretty straightforward. Galvo rotary marking allows you to visually adjust output center. I'll have to test that one. I actually asked for that one at one point, so I like seeing that there. Outside the scope of this video, though. Head-mounted camera alignment for April tags. Okay, outside the scope of this, I don't have any head-mounted cameras to test that with until, you know, fingers crossed, maybe someday they'll function with the X-Tool cameras and the close-up camera, but not today. Macro functions have been moved from the console window into a new macros window. Macro functions. From the console's window. Oh, really? Okay. So, yeah. So the macro buttons that are here. This is actually kind of important for someone like me who has a We Create vision and relies on the macro buttons to perform certain operations like focusing, turning on and off, air assist, stuff like that. So it looks like they've moved that to its own macros tab. So let me turn that on. Oh yeah, and I've now, looks like I've got more than 5 macros available to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, or more than 6 rather. Yeah. Oh good. Good. So over here in 1.7 we're limited to just the 6 macro buttons that you see that are on the screen here. It looks like they've stacked us up pretty good here and given us a nice clean way to manage these. Cool, because I actually have run out of macro buttons for my We Create. I had a bunch of M codes set up for them for things like, again, air assist on and off, the cabinet ventilation on and off, rotary enable disable, focus Z, so that alone is 7. So, you know, for sure I ran out of, oh, interesting, delete. For sure I ran out of macro buttons, so this is a nice change. All right, cool. Nice little hidden new feature. What else? Create barcode tool now supports April tags and RUCO standard bar tags. Create barcode. Okay. So, okay, there's April tags, which it looks like I don't have. Okay. I don't know the constraints on April tags, so I'm winging it here. Error invalid number. I don't know. So those of you who know April tags, obviously maybe this means something more to you than it does to me. So a couple new formats of barcodes. And then a bunch of bug fixes. I'm not going to go into all the different bug fixes. You can come read the change log for yourself, but you'll see that there's bug fixes since the last public release of 1.7, and there's quite a few. So definitely comb through there. This is a huge release, major revision. And then it gives you the changes from RC1 to RC2. So I think we're going to wrap the video there. This has already gotten a little bit long. But yeah, definitely some cool stuff to check out and get ready for a little bit of a change. And yeah, very cool. So thanks, LightBurn. Developers are kicking butt over there and looking forward to when this thing hits mainstream. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.